Hello again, my friends. Welcome back to Yarn Church. Today I have some finished objects, some whips, well, a whip, and some updates. Got up to a lot in the last couple of weeks. That's why I haven't really posted in a little bit. Had a great 2-week fiber arts packed vacation. I've at this point kind of forgotten what it feels like to be at work, which is always kind of a goal for me for vacation time, is forget what it's like to be a working adult for a little bit. I think I said a couple days ago, I know I would be a good retiree now. So anyway, maybe the most obvious first finished object is my book club cardigan, which I'm wearing a little bit pilled today because I wore the crap out of it over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, this is my book club cardigan. I finished this the Saturday night before the Canmore retreat, and I sewed on the buttons the night before I left. And I really love how it turned out. The contrast on the button band and on the sleeve cuffs and on the hem is because of running out of the brandy yarn. That's the lighter colored sheep, and then I had to finish it up with Emma, which is the like a darker and maybe a little bit warmer toned tan sheep skein. But I still, the contrast, I've gotten a lot of compliments on the contrast, so I'm kind of glad that I had to make that kind of creative choice to do that. I think there's a lot of ways that some limitation can be really good for the creative process, and this was, I think, running out of yarn is one of those places, and in some ways those limitations almost make it more fun because there's a problem to solve, and it makes it a little bit more interesting. This is the first time that I lost yarn chicken, and some other firsts of this project. This is the first time I did pockets on a knitted thing. The way these pockets are constructed is you, as you're knitting down the body, because it's a top-down construction. As you're knitting down the body, you come to the point where you're going to put the pocket, and you insert some yarn, some waste yarn, and then you continue knitting down, and that's going to end up being the inside of the pocket. It's kind of back here, and then when you're done, you come back up and you pick those stitches back up, and then you start knitting in the round, and you continue the pattern inside the pocket on one side, and then the other side is just reverse. Well, I guess it's stockinette stitch, sorry, and it's reverse stockinette on the other side, of course. So you just knit this in the round, and then when you're done, you turn it inside, and then you've got kind of the inside of your pocket. So I was wrong. It's not the inside of the pocket. It's kind of this part of the pocket is what you continue knitting. So that's why it looks kind of smooth. I really like the way this turned out. And as I've worn it, the pockets have kind of flattened out, which is, I think I mentioned that was one of the things I hope to accomplish with blocking. And I think I got most of the way there with blocking, but it's actually just gotten better as I've worn it. And yeah, it's a comfy, oversized. I like the drape of this yarn. This is really floppy, drapey yarn, and the sweater's like floppy, drapey. I really like the sleeve length I ended up with. It's just a super wearable sweater, and I see myself just, wearing the crap out of it. Like I said, the yarn has kind of been pilling a lot. I'm hoping that this is a short-term thing where once I've depilled it a couple of times, I'm hoping that stops. I've heard that some yarns do eventually stop pilling. I'm hoping that happens with this. But I guess if it's not the end of the world to depill it every now and then. All right, so another finished object. I finished this while I was in Canmore. This is a pair of socks. The yarn I used for the socks was Freckled Whimsy. This is the December colorway called Hello Winter, and I made this in the Splendid sock base, which is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. This is a subscription through Freckled Whimsy that I get, and I still get the monthly subscription, but I'm a couple months behind, so I took a little break in January to knit this and to finish up these socks. This is actually the second pair of socks that I knit out of the skein set, out of the set. I believe I can probably find my second sock pretty easily. I think this is the second sock, and the reason I know that this is the second sock, maybe not, yeah. The reason I know this is the second sock is because I can see a little bit of color variation on the ribbing at the cuff, because I was as I was knitting these at the retreat, I ran out of the contrast skein, and what I ended up doing is taking the leftover, so I still had a pretty big ball of maybe this size yarn ball left over of the main color, and I basically just pulled out these colors, and then when I got to the green, I put that into the cuff, and then I would pull out the rest of these colors, clip it, and then go again with the green. I think I ended up doing kind of two of those, 2 or 3 sections of that, in addition to the what I had left of the contrast skein. So I was able to squeeze 2 full pairs of socks out of one skein of this yarn, and I have some scraps left over still, but absolutely nothing left of the contrast skein. And I think the only reason I was even able to get that close with one contrast skein is that the first pair of socks were DRK Everyday socks, and I only used the contrasts on the toe and the heel, and the heel for the Flegel heel that Andrea uses in the DRK Everyday sock doesn't use very much contrast yarn. So I think if I had only used it on the toe or only used it on the cuff, if I'd only used it on the heel or in the toe, I might have gotten all the way through 2 pairs. So I'm going to keep that in mind, because I think this sock pattern, which by the way is the Socksploration Shadow Wrap Heel, I did knit this toe up, but you can do that with the Socksploration Shadow Wrap Heel pattern. It's written for cuff down, but it's pretty easy to go either direction with it, and I determine which direction I'm going based on what I feel like in the moment when I'm casting on. And I cast this on an airplane, and I didn't want to fool with casting on in the round on magic loop, so I did a Turkish cast on the toe, and then I did the same on the other sock. So I cast this on the airplane coming home from Wisconsin after Christmas. And I think I've talked about these before, but yeah, I started these right after Christmas, mostly because I was sick over Christmas break, and because I was sick, I didn't do anything but knit and sleep, and I got a lot of knitting done during that time, and I finished all the projects I brought with me, and also finished a full sock in addition to the projects I planned. And so I cast this on the plane on the way back, and got, I guess, about to here, and then I finished this much in Canmore, and now I have a pair, and they've already got a little bit of pilling, because it's a high percentage of merino, and I did a lot of walking when I was in Canmore, and I wore these while I was in Canmore. So yeah, that's that. And then my other finished object I did on Friday. This last week I was at Red Alder Fiber Arts in Tacoma, Washington, and I knitted this, which is, oh my goodness, let me look this up for you. All right, this is the Suhigan River Cowl by Anna Campos. And I did not finish the project. I took the Portuguese knitting class from Anna Campos, and we started the cowl during the class, and I realized that my gauge in Portuguese knitting is pretty tight, and not just that, but it looks like, you know, also my gauge is a little tighter in the color work, which I think is normal. But I even think the size needle that was suggested would have been too small for me, even in my normal knitting style. So when I kind of tried this on during the class over my head, and I realized this is supposed to be, I think, 3 or 4 repeats. And I realized that was going to be kind of an uncomfortably tight cowl for me. So I decided to improvise and make it a headband instead. And I think it's a pretty cute headband. Surprisingly, the colors look pretty good on me. So I'm not disappointed. I like it. I really liked Portuguese knitting. It's definitely a really nice way to do color work because you work the color work inside out. Because purling is a lot easier with Portuguese knitting, and it is, I'll have to say, it's somewhat easier to manage your colors with Portuguese knitting. There were a lot of people in the class who said, "Oh, I'm never going to knit my normal way with color work again," or like, "I'm always going to use Portuguese knitting for color work." I don't know if I would go that far. But it was a pretty cool way to do color work, and I definitely will use it again. I do want to practice it some more because I think there are definitely some cases where this is preferable, and this is actually probably my fastest. I think I'm already a faster Portuguese knitter than I am a continental knitter, so maybe this may be worth pursuing for speed. There are very efficient motions with Portuguese knitting. But yeah, that's the project I finished. Finished this in one day. The class I think was 3 hours long. I didn't finish this during class, but I got through all of the color work during class, and I think a couple rows into the garter. And then I finished it up at dinner, that night. So I do like the pattern. I'm thinking about maybe turning this into a hat because it is kind of the perfect size, like as a hat brim for me. I thought about picking up stitches here and adding kind of like a hat piece to it, and then maybe a little pom-pom. I think it would be really cute. Have to decide whether I'd rather have a hat or a headband. I have lots of hats. I don't have any headbands, so I may keep this as a headband. And then the yarn I used for that was Monstro from Lamb & Kid in the colorways. I've got the bands here. I always keep the bands. Gray is my favorite color, I think, is this one. And this one, the green, is called Atomic. So these are the 2 colors. I really like this yarn. We'll probably use it again. It's so soft and squishy. It is lovely. Some other things. The other finished objects are kind of sample skeins from the classes I took at Red Alder. So I took several art yarn classes, and so the skeins are not super pretty because it's my first time making these art yarns, but I think it's worth sharing kind of a first attempt at something. And I actually really enjoy being kind of bad at something, and that's kind of why I took these art yarn classes, and that's one of the things I love about spinning is I feel a lot more free to just be bad or to be imperfect. So first one I'll share with you is from my Fishnets and Rosebuds class, and I'm going to unfold this so you can maybe see it a little bit better if I can find. And part of the problem is I didn't have a nitty knotty with me, and so I used the nitty knotty that's attached to my shoulder, and I just wrapped the yarn kind of around my thumb and elbow as a nitty knotty. and it was maybe a little bit less than ideal. So as this is the yarn, this is the loop. This is unfinished. I still haven't washed this, but I'll maybe pull out some sections. Like this is the fishnet section. And then this is a rosebud section. It's very cool technique. I would like to make one or both of these yarns again. Now, and they ended up in one skein in this case, because we were learning the new technique. And this was taught by Charan Sachar. He's actually here on YouTube. I'll try to link him below. He does a lot of really cool videos of, I have to show you this section. He actually invented the fishnets yarn. It's not a crepe yarn. It is actually a 2-ply yarn. So it looks like a crepe yarn, but it's really 2 plies. It's pretty smart and creative the way that he did it. I do want to kind of master that technique and do a little bit more with it. And the rosebuds are really cool as well. I want to do a whole rosebuds yarn. Some of my rosebuds turned out better than others. Some of them are very, very cute. Yeah, I do want to do these yarns again, like each their own. But yeah, Charan Sachar has a lot of videos here on YouTube on incorporating art yarns, like crazy art yarns like this, into knitted projects, which I feel like a lot of people that do hand spinning of crazy art yarns like this, they keep them as the skein is the work of art. And he does not feel that way, and I don't feel that way either. I feel like you should be able to use your yarn in projects, and I think it's, you know, very creative to think of ways to use, you know, art yarn in the other hobbies that you do. I think weavers do a better job of this than knitters in general, but yeah, he does it for knitting and weaving, and he has videos on how to knit with crazy art yarns, as well as I think some spinning videos as well. So the fishnets yarn is something that he invented. Rosebuds yarn, he saw someone doing a yarn like the rosebuds, and they wouldn't tell him how to make it, and so he figured it out himself. So he doesn't claim to have invented it, but he also doesn't claim that it's the same yarn that they made, because he doesn't know how they made it. But I still think it's very pretty, and I would like to keep making more. All right, and the other class I took from Charan on Thursday was called Popcorn Jumbo Boucle, and this is my favorite skein that I made, because I feel like this yarn was technically easier to make. And again, the skein is also not consistent because of the way that we did it. We were encouraged in this, when we were spinning this, to try different things throughout the skein. I'm only able to find kind of the loop of this, and I don't know that I'm even doing a great job of that now, because I can kind of see my figure 8 tie here. And so if I can get my fingers inside where the figure 8, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the loop. I used the thread we were using for binder as my figure 8 ties, and it's kind of hard to figure out where they are, because it's also the thread I use for the binder, and it looks like, sometimes I grab at the figure 8 ties and it's actually binder. But yeah, we did kind of a spiral plied yarn, and then we plied over it again with a binder, very similarly to how you would make a boucle, but instead of doing it with kind of a mohair or a very fine yarn, or very fine single, we used thick and thin singles. And this section that's white, I believe all of this was thick and thin singles, just spun thick and thin. And the colored sections were were all core spun, which this was also my first time core spinning. So so I learned to core spin, and unfortunately didn't take Charan's class on core spinning, but he did a pretty, I mean, in a very short section of this class, he taught us how to core spin, I think, pretty well, where yeah, I core spun in this class and really enjoyed it, and plan to do some more core spinning. Need to find some, I think I might need to start buying some weaving yarn to use as core and binder for some of these art yarns that now I want to start making. But yeah, this is my fun popcorn jumbo boucle. And then the other spinning class, I took a couple other spinning classes. One of the other spinning classes I took was a carding class where we learned kind of the proper way to card. I'm putting it in quotes because there's no right or wrong way, but it was taught by Heavenly Bresser, another great instructor. Heavenly taught us her way of carding and kind of some troubleshooting for hand carding, and I've hand carded before, but I feel like I got better rollags in this class, and she taught us kind of how to hold the yarn down and get a rollag with the hand cards, and I've always just rolled them with my fingers off of the hand card, but I feel like a little bit more confident making them just with the cards now. So that was good. And then I took a couple other classes. I should say I signed up for a few other classes. On Saturday, I got very, very sick. I don't know if it was a 24-hour bug, if it was food poisoning or what, but I was very sick. I was literally green in my morning class. My morning class was with Michael Kelson, teaching spinning for speed and consistency, and I could tell that it was a good class, but I didn't get much out of it because I was very distracted by how upset my stomach was. I had to run out of the class multiple times to throw up in the bathroom, and I kept trying to come back to the class, and finally, I think with 30 minutes left in the class, I just gave up and left, and I went and laid in bed, and so I could be close to the bathroom. Maybe that's TMI, I'm so sorry if it is. But then after lunch that day, I was supposed to go to a class with Jillian Moreno on kind of color blending. It was called Tones and Shades or something like that. And I was really looking forward to that class, and I had to miss it completely because I was still very sick, and I was hoping that the hour and 2 hours between leaving class early and kind of sleeping through lunch and letting my stomach settle, I would be able to go to that class, but I was still so sick by the time that class was going to start that I just stayed in bed. I was very sad to have missed it. I know Jillian's a great teacher, and I would have really enjoyed the class, but I had to miss it. Luckily, on Sunday morning when I had my last class, I was feeling fine. Actually, by Saturday evening, I stopped throwing up and mostly was just dehydrated and just needed to kind of get some fluids in me. I'm still a little dehydrated because I still haven't fully rehydrated yet, but I've been drinking water with electrolytes in it to try to get my hydration back up. Mostly my side effects, or I guess my remaining ill feelings are all dehydration related. But yeah, my last class, I felt fine, other than that little lingering headache from dehydration. I felt well enough to go to class on Sunday, and I was able to go to Michael Kelson's class on Core Effect Binder. And the first yarn we made, ironically, was my very first traditional boucle. So I made the weird boucle before I ever made a traditional boucle. And this is it. We made very small quantities of each yarn because we made a lot of different ones. This is this is all silk. It's very overspun, which is why it's really hard for me to get this out of the loop. Overspun, overplied, one of the two, maybe both. But let me untwist a little bit. Okay. So this is the yarn. This is my traditional boucle. This was spun using a silk hanky. So he handed out silk hankies and taught us how to spin them. I'd never spun from a silk hanky before and had maybe not always, but I was intimidated to try spinning from a silk hanky because I didn't know how to spin from one. And no one ever showed me. I had no idea how to start. It was not the way I thought you should spin from one, so I'm glad that he showed us. But we spun a kind of a thick and thin single from the silk hanky, and then we wrapped that around a core, and then we bound it with the binder thread. And in this case, the core thread and the binder thread were the same, like white weaving silk, and it was great. Learned a lot. I liked the way the yarn turned out, but I wish that the binder matched. Like if the core and the binder had matched the effect yarn, I think I would have liked it better. But as he talked about that in the class too, he gave us all this white core thread, but when he uses it for real, like when he's making his yarns, he is usually dyeing it to match the effect fiber. And so the next one we spun, I didn't put into a hank. I actually just rolled it into a yarn ball because it actually was too short to even roll into a skein. But this is mohair core spun from the cloud and then plied on itself. So this was minus the binder. But it is incredibly soft and fuzzy, and I really love it. This is technically a silk mohair, but it's not your typical silk mohair. It's a silk core with mohair kind of spun onto it and then plied on itself. I do really like this. I can see myself making a lot of this yarn and using it in a project. I think this would be really cool. Again, the things that Michael showed us were a little bit less like art yarn and a little bit more like just textured knitting yarns. But yeah, I would absolutely knit with this. I don't think you'd even need a special project or anything like that. I think this just adds some texture to a normal knitting project would be really fun. And I just can't stop touching it. It feels so nice. And then we kind of did the same thing, but with this is with Sari silk. This was also my first time spinning Sari silk. One of the first times for a lot of things, but this is slightly less overplied, yeah, this one was more in line with kind of the class goals. So this was Sari silk core spun onto the core, and then bound with a thread. So I used a sewing thread that was the same color as this. It was a kind of a yellow color. So you can't really see, you can maybe see some sections where the sewing thread, like right there, where the sewing thread is kind of, I used it kind of as part of the tie. But you really can't see it on the yarn itself. And I really liked that. So yeah, I wanted to see kind of what would it look like if you actually did match the binder, and I do really like the way this turns out. Again, I would totally knit with this. This is also very soft, but not as soft as the mohair. And then my last one, skein it up. You can tell that this is maybe a little bit overplied, and the fact that twisting this up, it doesn't really, it's almost like I'm just taking the ply twist out, so it's not really twisting into a skein very nicely. All right, and then the last one, this is made from a merino sparkle top. So it's a merino top with some Firestar in it. Again, finding the ends on these skeins because they're so small, and I didn't really tie them up with as many ties as I normally would because they're small. So this is the last one. It is mohair, sorry, not mohair, there's no mohair. It's all merino top with Firestar in it. So it's a little bit sparkly. And then I This is on the same core. I just spun a thick and thin core spun yarn. And then there are sections, and you can kind of see, there are some sections where I let it get really fluffy on the core. And then I bound over it with a kind of maroon colored sewing thread. And I also really like the way this turned out. And one thing I learned from some of this is like, I really like it when the thread, when the binder matches or blends a little bit better with the overall yarn. So I think that's something that I'll probably do next time I make one of these, and I will be making these again. And I do want to knit with these. I have some ideas of maybe doing some intarsia where there's like kind of sections of texture and sections of smooth yarn. I think that would be really cool. But those are the yarns I made. I really enjoyed being very, very challenged in those classes. But yeah, let me tell you a little bit more. If you were just here for the finished objects. Oh, wait, I have a whip. So let me show you my whip. And then if you were here for kind of the traditional knitting podcast stuff, that part's about to end after this whip. And then I'll get into kind of what was it like at Red Alder, what was it like at the Fiber Folks Canmore retreat. All right, so my only whip right now, I should say, I have a few UFOs. I have a few UFOs, and I have some works in progress that I'm about to start. And I'm going to talk about some of those in a different video that I'll probably also post this week. But yeah, we'll talk about my one whip that I'm actively working on, which is my Audrey top by Sari Nordlund. I started this on the Monday before I left for Canmore, while this sweater was on the drying rack being blocked. So, and I worked on this. I was able to work on this quite a bit during the Canmore retreat. So I think you might be looking at the front now. So this is the front of the Audrey top. It's going to be, I'm planning on wearing this more like a vest, which the Grocery Girls and the Knit Social folks, Amanda and Fiona, the four of them also knit tops like this, and I thought it was a great idea to do kind of a winter version. The Audrey top's kind of a summery top. I'll try to put a picture up here somewhere of kind of the pattern photo that Sari took. But I'm doing mine in a mohair and merino combination. I believe this is the merino yarn. This is a superwash merino, I believe, fingering weight from Montana Crochet Company, and I don't remember the colorway name, but I'll put it on the screen. And then the mohair wingspan. And both of these yarns were from a coworker's de-stash. And I don't believe that they put them in the same project, but I think they go really well together. And I don't think either of these colors by themselves would have looked that good on me. Not that they look bad on me, but I think this looks really good on me, like really good next to my skin compared to either one of the colors by themselves. I was a little bit worried that maybe the orange plus the purple would get muddy, but actually I really like how the orange that's in the merino fingering weight kind of shines out of the purple. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of this, and I've been a good girl and I've been alternating skeins. I'm doing this a little bit out of order, kind of like I did on this. I don't know for sure that I'm going to run out of yarn, but I do think I'm going to be cutting it close because I only had 2 skeins of the fingering weight, and I have plenty of mohair. I'm not worried about the mohair because I have another skein after all of this that's in the bag is done. I had 3 skeins of mohair and I had 2 skeins of the fingering. But I'm doing it a little out of order because this is a little bit of a cropped top, and I don't want mine to be cropped. I want to do a full length version, or as long as I can make it. So I am doing the ribbing on the armholes and on the top and on this armhole. I'm on the second armhole now. When I am done with the armholes, I'm going to return to the bottom and go back to alternating skeins until I get close to the end of one of the skeins or both of the skeins, and then I'll continue on to the ribbing. But I want to see how long I can make this thing. Because right now, like, I mean, it's not very long. I've got a long way to go even for the cropped version. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I think this is going to be cute. I don't really wear a vest, so we'll see how I like it. But yeah, it'll be kind of my first vest in my wardrobe, to be worn over and or under some things. So I'm enjoying the project. I love the yarn. I can't stop touching the yarn. This is also my first project using, if you can believe it, using a finger weight and mohair held together, and it will definitely not be my last. All right, last thing is, actually, let's talk about some acquisitions. I've been debating whether I should talk about this or not. I didn't anticipate having a lot of acquisitions this year, and I don't anticipate buying a lot of yarn in general because I have a pretty large stash, and I at least want to kind of get my existing stash a little bit better organized before I start buying a lot of more yarn. But I do occasionally find a yarn that I really like and want to buy. So let me get some of my acquisitions, and we can talk about some of the yarns I bought, and some of the other spinning supplies that I bought at Red Alder and the Grocery Girls Retreat. Hey, I'm back, and I have my purchases with me from the Canmore retreat and Red Alder. So I'll go through the Canmore stuff first. It's been a minute. So first of all, and I'm just kind of, this is in the order that they're in the bag. There's no particular order other than the order that they are in the bag, which was really the order that they were easiest to pack in because I had to get this in a suitcase and on an airplane. So first is a project bag. I did not plan on buying project bags, but I could not resist. So I got this from Atelier Nekazuki. They had a booth at the marketplace during the winter in the Rockies retreat at Canmore. I loved this fabric. I loved the design of the bag. I really like bags for knitting with a drawstring. This is, I don't know if this is a plastic or leather drawstring. It kind of seems like it's a leather drawstring, but it's a really smooth, like durable leather-ish drawstring. And just a really sturdy like canvas fabric on the outside, and some kind of like some cute kind of quilting fabric on the inside. And I also bought a pair of scissors to match. Look at how cute these scissors are. It looks like a cat paw, and then you pull them out, and they're scissors. How adorable is this? Too cute. I had to have the scissors to match the project bag. So the scissors live in the project bag, and I do like to have a pair of scissors in every project bag, whether they match or not. I keep scissors in project bags because every project bag needs a pair of scissors. If no other notions, you need a pair of scissors. All right, number 1. I also bought the Grocery Girls colorway from Spin Cycle in Plump because I love my Plump hat, my Plumped Up Harlow hat so much. I want to make the cowl, and I'm gonna make it in the Grocery Girls colorway. So I bought 2 skeins of this, and to go with it, I bought 2 skeins, which is gonna be more than enough. Probably could have gotten away with one of these, from Ginger Snap, in their buttercream. This is their bulky weight 80/20 superwash nylon, in the colorway buttercream. I think these two are going to go really well together, and I'm going to make the plump cowl from Andrea Mowry with this. I think it will be very cute. I think these colors are good on me too. And even if they're not, I don't care. I'm going to enjoy making the project and wearing it. All right. Next, I got some of the other things in here aren't too yarny, but I'll show them anyway. But I got a couple of 10-gram bags of Kiviot at the Kiviuk store in this is the tag in Banff, when we took the excursion to Banff. They had yarn there. I wanted the fiber because I have some Kiviot that I spun, and I want to make a project with it, and I am worried that if I run out, I won't have, if I run out of what I spun, there's really, the yarn that they have there may not match. So I decided to just buy the fiber, and I can spin a little bit more yarn if I need it. That was my thought. Yeah. And if I don't need it, I'll still spin it because, yeah, Kiviot. Or I may blend it with some wool or something to make it stretch a little bit further. I'll just add some warmth and softness to some special wool. And then I think everything else in here is not really yarn related. Yeah, I think I got some stitch markers. They're a little bit harder to find in here because they're small. Yeah, I'm going to say I will locate that stuff later. Yeah, I think I got some stitch markers as well. I also bought this bracelet from Orange Avocado that was kind of a special bracelet that they made just for that, just for our retreat. And that was the first thing I got. I kind of made a beeline for from their booth because I really wanted the bracelet, and I also thought, this is a souvenir from the trip that won't take up as much space as yarn. And so I was like, oh, this is perfect. Doesn't take up very much suitcase space, but it's still something really nice, and I can remember the trip. Yeah. Okay. For Red Alder, in addition to a ton of fiber that was just left over from my classes, and a bunch of different varieties, I bought this from Eugene Textile Center, their booth. I got a Nitty Noddy. This is a travel Nitty Noddy from Kromsky. I maybe would have preferred something smaller, cheaper. I had planned on getting the Katrinkles, like kind of flat pack one. This is fine. It twists around. It also comes apart pretty easily. One side comes apart easier than the other, but it does come apart pretty easily. And I used it during my classes, mostly because, as I mentioned, I didn't bring a Nitty Noddy with me, and it is a little bit easier to tie up a skein when your yarn is on a Nitty Noddy and not wrapped around your arm. So yeah, this was kind of maybe not an essential, but this was a very nice to have during the retreat, and I will probably pack it, if I remember to, in future retreats. And then let's see. This is actually a skein of yarn that I made during one of my classes. This is leftover singles that didn't make it into my boucle. I bought some, I believe this is Angelina, yes. I bought Angelina in holographic color. Super cool. Also from Eugene Textile Center. I love Eugene Textile Center, by the way. If you have not checked out Eugene Textile Center, they're amazing. I love buying from them. I've told people they ship so fast it will make your head spin. And they're so helpful online. I've ordered a few things from them. I bought my first wool combs from them at Black Sheep Gathering last year, and I've just always had a great experience with them. But I bought these two kind of sparkle add-ins for making art bats, which I hope to do a little bit more of since I have a drum carder now. So I bought these for playtime. And then I have to mention this. I got this project bag. This project bag is from Grace's Cases, and I have to show you how cool this is. So first of all, it has a pocket on the outside. It has a zipper on the outside. Very cool. It has a drawstring top, which I always love for a knitting bag. Now this drawstring is made of the grosgrain ribbon. And then on the inside, it also has another zipper. So it has another zipper pocket on the inside, which I really like, having all these little places to put notions. And I mean, there's space in here to put a pattern. And yeah, it's really great. Oh, my Eugene Textile Center bag is in here. And I don't have a project in here yet. But the other cool thing about this, and I am not an expert on this yet, but I kind of have this set up the way I prefer it, but there's other ways to set this bag up. But essentially, the way you do the straps is really genius. So this is one way to carry the bag, the way the straps are set up. You can also pull them out that way, and now it's a backpack. And they're adjustable as well. So I had to have this bag. I actually wasn't planning on buying a bag from Grace at this Fiber Arts Festival, because I see her pretty much weekly in my local yarn shop, and she sells these bags in my local yarn shop as well. If you're going to be in Portland for the Rose City Yarn Crawl, she sells these bags at Green Trees Crochet, and she is almost definitely doing a trunk show at Green Trees Crochet, probably the entire Rose City Yarn Crawl. So if you're at Rose City Yarn Crawl, check these bags out at Green Trees Crochet. This is her large project bag. She also sells smaller project bags, and actually I have one of her projects. Let me shout out Grace, because Grace is a lovely person and she's a genius, and she makes beautiful project bags. So let me show you another one of her project bags, and I got a lot of compliments on this in Canmore. This is my project bag I use for a lot of my socks. Yes, it's sushi. It doesn't come with this stuff, but it did come with this little loop to put stuff like this on. Again, it has the grosgrain ribbon drawstring. This is the perfect size for 1 or 2 skeins of fingering weight, and you can it's got a flat bottom with some quilting batting or something in the bottom, so it's like pretty solid and thick at the bottom. And then I put my you put a skein or 2 of yarn in there and knit right out of this, and then when you're done, you just cinch it up. It's got, I think it has, does it have a little pocket inside? No, it does not have a little pocket inside, but yeah, it's still, these are my favorite like sock project bags. She also has sock project bags that have like a place to put 2 skeins. So if you do like 2 at a time socks, you can keep your skeins separate. So there's like a little fabric divider in between it, and I have one of those bags as well. But yeah, she sells a lot of these in Green Trees Crochet, and she usually has a few of the larger bags as well. She also makes needle cases, and if you have a special fabric, you can bring the special fabric to her and have her make the project bag out of your special fabric. So Grace's Cases, she's amazing. And I loved that bag enough that I paid a 10% sales tax on it, even though Oregon has no sales tax, and she lives here and sells in Oregon. That was maybe my impulsive, not so smart financial decision, but because I could have gotten that for a little bit less if I had bought it in Oregon instead of Washington. So the last thing I bought is yarn from Sea Change. Sea Change Fibers. It's not my first Sea Change purchase. I love Sea Change Fibers. I first bought yarn from her, and actually in this colorway, but in a different base, when she was at Rose City Yarn Crawl. And this base is called Shoreline Sport. It's 325 yards and 100 grams. It's 50% merino and rambouillet wool, 25% silk, and 25% linen. It's a sport weight, but the gauge is 22 to 26 stitches per 4 inches. So it's pretty close to a fingering weight gauge. And I'm going to be making a Mooncrush t-shirt with this yarn. I'll put the picture of the pattern here for you. I know how to edit now, so you get pictures in pictures. Every video is going to get better. I think I told you that in the first one. I'm going to get better at this. But the Mooncrush tee, as you saw in that picture, has 3 colors, and these are the 3 colors. My friend Margaret helped me pick these out because this is something that I want to wear at my Grocery Girls cruise in September. I would like a t-shirt that I knitted that I can wear, and I'm not a big fan of knitting with cotton. One of my UFOs is a 100% cotton t-shirt that I also want to finish before then, but I'm taking a little break from it right now. But this yarn feels just like wool, but it's 50% linen and silk, so I feel like this might be tolerable in the heat, plus tolerable for knitting, so we will see how we like this. The other yarn base that I kind of saw for the first time over the last couple weeks in my shopping was the nettle base that Ancient Arts has. I would really like to order a sweater quantity of that, but I am going to wait, maybe stupidly, wait until I have a better idea of what I have in my stash and have my own stash a little bit better organized. I was very, very close to buying that also at the Canmore retreat, but yeah, I was worried about space in my suitcase. I shouldn't have been. I actually did have plenty of room for it, but I was worried about space in my suitcase, and even aside from that, a little bit worried about space in my stash. And the area that I have for my stash is getting a little bit crowded and a little bit overwhelming. I don't think I have a larger stash than a lot of folks. Like, I don't think I have a larger than average stash for someone who knits and spins as much as I do, but it is starting to get a little overwhelming for me, and so I at least want to organize it a little bit better before I buy more yarn or fiber for that matter. So kind of keeping it chill. All right, finally, that's it for purchases, finished objects, whips, all that stuff. So talk a little bit about the Canmore Retreat and Red Alder Fiber Arts Festival. So Canmore Retreat was kind of in mid-February. It was in mid-February. It's mid-February now. Hold on. Let me grab some water. Okay, so the Canmore Retreat was kind of beginning of February. I think it started on February 6th. I got to Canmore a day early and left a day late, which I think I will probably do from now on for knitting retreats and things like that, if it's an option to me. It was really nice to not have to rush around or worry about when I was getting there, if I was going to make it for the activities and things like that. So I got there on February 5th, kind of early afternoon. I called the hotel ahead. We were staying at the Malcolm Hotel in Canmore. Alberta, which was a lovely hotel. It's not the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at, because I've stayed at the Chateau Frontenac, and I think that's the nicest hotel I've ever stayed at and ever will stay at. But the Malcolm Hotel was really up there in terms of experience. It was definitely a luxury experience. They came and did a turn. A lot of hotels in the U.S., and I don't know if it's hotels in the U.S. or non-luxury hotels, they don't clean the room unless you ask them to. But it was their default to clean the room and replace towels and everything every day. They didn't replace the sheets every day, but they did replace the towels every day. And I don't know, it was very nice that they did that. It's not something that I do at home. I reuse my towels at home, but it is kind of nice when you're on vacation to know you have clean linens every day. And I really appreciated that. And kind of having a clean room and having the bed made when you get back, it's a very good experience. And I do really like that. And they did that at the Malcolm. I didn't have to ask for it. It was just came with the room. And then in the evenings when we came back, there was a turn down service with cookies. I'll put a little picture of their cookies here too. So they put cookies on the bed with a little note. Very nice. And they sent a weather report every evening to as a text message. They had a pool and a hot tub on the roof, even though it was like negative 24 Celsius. Most of the time we were there. It was below freezing pretty much the entire time I was there, but they, as long as it was above negative 24 Celsius with wind chill, they had the hot tub and pool open and people actually were using it. I may get brave and take my swimsuit with me next time. But yeah, I got there a day early. The concierge at the hotel actually booked me my transportation from the airport to Canmore. And that was a private chauffeur, and I loved that, and I will do that again as well. It was a female driver, and she was also a knitter, so I got to talk about knitting. Poor driver, but she was a knitter. She loved it. Whatever. We talked about knitting all the way to Canmore to my knitting retreat, and then I met up with some of the people that were in the retreat. I think Shelly was sitting by the elevator, and I talked to her and her husband for a long time. Found out that her husband works for or represents a company that my mom worked for, and they didn't know each other, but it was still kind of like he kind of referenced a place in Kentucky. He referenced my hometown in Kentucky as kind of a reference point to other places, and I thought that was odd because I'm from a town with like 9,000 people on a good day. So, but he referenced my hometown, and I was like, oh, how do you know Maysville? And he was like, oh, I used to work for this company, and it's like wild, small world. But yeah, chatted with them. Hung out in my room. I went to this seafood restaurant. It was a little bit of a walk. I have lived in cold places. I went to grad school in Utah, and it got pretty cold there, but it was much colder in Alberta, and I may have underestimated that. I saw a restaurant that was a 10-minute walk away, and I thought, 10-minute walk? I'll walk. So I walked to the restaurant 10 minutes away, and the walk there was fine. I was pretty cold when I got there, but it was fine. The walk back, when it was a little bit colder later at night, I lost feeling in my legs on the way back. And as soon as I walked into the lobby of the hotel, I just stood next to the fire for 5 minutes before I went up to my room because it was just so cold. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get frostbite on my first day. Nothing else was cold, just my thighs, because I had my hands in my pockets, and I was wearing a ton of knitwear. I was wearing my Plumped Up Harlow hat, which is very warm. I was wearing a scarf. I was wearing my puffer coat. The only part of me that got cold was my upper thighs because I was wearing jeans, and jeans are not as warm as you think they are when you're wearing them and sweating in the summer. They're not warm in the winter. So I should have worn leggings or something underneath my jeans, which I did every other day that I was going to be outside, but I hadn't learned that lesson yet. I'm going to take a sip of water. But first day was that. Second day in Canmore, the first thing we did in the morning was go to Banff. So we did a little Banff excursion in a party bus. I'll put a little picture here. So we took kind of a party bus to Banff, and it was, I worked on my sock, on the bus, and, we did a little bit of shopping. That's where I bought a lot of these, kind of souvenirs. I bought more things than I showed you. I bought some candies, like some maple syrup candies, and I bought a hoodie from the Roots, store there in Banff. And I don't know, we just walked around, and it's just a beautiful town in general. Took some pictures, by the mountains, and yeah, it was lovely. Really fun way to start. We hung out at the Starbucks a little bit, kind of a big group of us, and it was really fun to hang out with other knitters. And then we rode back to Canmore, had lunch, and then we went to Sari Nordlund's cable class. Sari was amazing. She's such a good teacher, but also, and it shouldn't surprise me, but I'm always a little bit nervous of meeting people who seem a certain way online. I'll say, Tracy and Jody, they seem very friendly online, and, social media is a little bit of a lie, but not, Tracy and Jody are just exactly like they are on their podcasts in real life. And, they sparkle. That's all they sparkle. And Sari also, she's maybe a little bit more outgoing, if anything, than she seems online. And she's a little reserved, but she was very nice and friendly. I just remember, she just hugged everybody goodbye as we were leaving, and was just such a nice person. You could tell, very warm, nice person. And I really enjoyed her cable class. Clearly, I've done cables before. I wore this cardigan to her class, and funny enough, one of the cable patterns she used as her demonstration was this motif from the book club cardigan. Actually, I guess the whole motif from the book club cardigan, and she had me stand up a few times in class to show people how the motif looks like when it's worked up, because she was showing the chart on a projector. And that was fun. I got to stand up and show off my cardigan a bunch of times in class. And then on the I believe on the Saturday of the retreat, we had a class with Fern from Fern's School of Craft, and this is kind of my other work in progress, is my punch needle project. So this is the right side, this is the wrong side. You punch through the wrong side, and it makes loops on the right side. Clearly I did not finish my project, but I did a little bit. And I have quite a long way to go before I'm finished, but it's an enjoyable craft, and one that I will probably do a little bit more of, as much as I need another craft in my life. I think it's a good way to use up some stash. It uses a lot of yarn pretty quick, which is always, maybe not always something I'm looking for, but it can be a useful thing to have it up your sleeve when you have as much yarn as I do. And during the weekend we had there was really good food, knitting by the fire every night. My roommate and I would go to bed kind of early, and we'd kind of sit up in bed, and knit and chat, and it was just really fun. In fact, everyone was so friendly there. On the last day of the retreat, well, actually it was kind of past the last day of the retreat. It was the Sunday at 11 a.m. was checkout, but I didn't check out until Monday at 11, which actually I checked out Monday at 8 because I had a kind of an earlier flight, but Sunday, I stayed the whole day Sunday, even though the retreat ended in the morning. And a lot of us just sat by the fire, like Sari was by the fire, and we all just sat around the fire chatting until folks gradually left. But one of the other attendees, which I mentioned, Shelly and her husband had the concierge arrange for a van to take them around Banff National Park and like see some more things. And we got to go. They asked me if I wanted to go with them. Me and one other person, Ellen. We all went together on their van back to Banff. But we did more of like the national park things. We went up in this what do they call it? We went up in this little thing that takes you up to the top of the mountain, and it was really, really cold up there, but I was dressed appropriately for this one. And it was a little bit scary. Oh, gondola. We went up in a gondola, up to the top of Sulphur Mountain, and it was super windy and cold up there, but really beautiful. You could see like kind of everything below. You could see a lot of like, I think 6 different mountain ranges from there. Really, really beautiful. We also went to Banff Springs Hotel that was there, kind of walked around that hotel. It's a really huge hotel, very similar to the Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City. And then, what else did we do? Oh, we went to this trading post and saw Herman the Merman. Apparently this taxidermist put together this like mermaid looking thing. The people in the area used to be afraid of going to the lake because there was this merman that lived there and would grab kids and eat them. And they said, oh, you don't need to be afraid. I caught him. And they have this thing taxidermied in this trading post. In addition to selling a lot of like Native American crafts and things like that, they also have this merman on display. Very kitschy sort of sideshow little trip. But yeah, really, really fun. And the fact that like, hey, we were strangers 4 days ago and now we're kind of like spending the day driving around together looking at all of this stuff. It was really fun. Yeah, came back to Portland for a couple of days and then went with my friend Margaret, I drove both of us up to Tacoma for Red Alder. Red Alder is a much larger fiber arts retreat. I think Margaret said that the organizers had told her there were 275 people taking classes, which is most of the hotel, I think. So it was a 26-story hotel. We stayed in the Hotel Murano in kind of downtown Tacoma, really near the convention center. But the hotel hosted all of the events. The hotel, I can see why they chose that hotel because it does have a lot of kind of conference center areas. It wasn't nearly as nice as the Malcolm. So it was a little bit of a letdown after staying in the Malcolm and going to the Hotel Murano. But the Hotel Murano was okay. My biggest complaint is they didn't have enough elevators for the number of people that were there. And it was maybe a 10 to 20 minute wait for the elevators every time you had to take an elevator because they would be full of people and spinning wheels every time. And I wouldn't have minded taking the stairs for we were on the 9th floor. That was kind of a lot of floors to go up and down with a spinning wheel. And so I was waiting on the elevator a lot because I took a lot of spinning classes, and a lot of the spinning classes, this yarn will not fit through the orifice of my e-spinner. So I had to take my treadle spinning wheel that has a larger orifice with me to take these art yarn classes. And I didn't want to take both my e-spinner and my treadle spinning wheel. So I was carrying a treadle spinning wheel through 9-story hotel. So I took the elevator pretty much every time. So, yeah. But yeah, I already told you about the classes. The classes were great. It was also very social. People were knitting by the fire in the lobby every night. But because it was larger, I didn't get to know people as well. And also I went with my friend, and so I spent a lot of time with my friend. I was very glad that I had a close friend there with me though, because that night that I was super sick, I texted Margaret saying, "Hey, I'm super sick." And she said, "Hey, can I get you anything?" And I said, "Yeah, if you can find some ginger ale and saltines, that would be great." And she went down to the restaurant at the Hotel Murano and asked them for saltines and ginger ale, and they set up 3 cans of ginger ale and a sack, like a grocery sack full of saltine crackers for me. And it almost redeemed the fact that the elevators were so slow, that they did that, and they didn't even charge her for it. So I really appreciated that. That was pretty much the only thing. 1 pack of those saltine crackers and like half a can of ginger ale was all I ate on Saturday. So I was very happy to have that to kind of settle my stomach down on Saturday night before going to bed. But yeah, the classes at Red Alder were great. Overall experience is something I would repeat. I'm not as excited about it as I am about going to more knit social events, but I probably will go back next year. I think Red Alder was more educational, and the knit social events are more social and like soul filling. They're more retreat, and the Red Alder Retreat is more workshop. They filled different pieces of me, and I'm very much looking forward to the Grocery Girls cruise retreat over the summer. That is, or I guess late summer, that is my next kind of big ticket event. But yeah, I pretty much have a year full of fiber arts, and I will continue to keep you filled in. Let me know if you like this kind of review of fiber arts events, because I pretty much spend my entire vacation budget on fiber arts. I really like going to events, and I'm a pretty social person. So I'll let you know how these things are, and whether that may be something that you're interested in. I guess let me know. And that's all I have for this. I hope you all are having fun doing your knitting, doing your spinning, any other creative pursuits that you have. Let me know what you're working on in the comments below. And as usual, like and subscribe if this is something that you enjoy and want to see more of. Until next time, see you later.